The silence in conference room B felt suffocating as Ellis closed his presentation with a smirk. My team sat frozen, 12 faces shifting through disbelief, confusion, and then devastation. "Let me make sure I understand," I said, keeping my voice unnaturally steady. "My team delivered 300% above target this quarter. We completely reinvented the distribution system. We saved the company millions, and our reward is doubled workload with zero additional compensation." Ellis adjusted his Italian tie, his wedding ring catching the fluorescent light. "That's correct, Breyer. Consider it a compliment. Your team clearly has capacity we haven't been taking advantage of." FA, our data expert, who'd missed her sister's wedding just to complete our biggest project, raised her hand like we were in school. "I'm already working 60-hour weeks. How exactly am I supposed to double that?" "Time management," Ellis replied without even glancing at her. "Maybe fewer coffee breaks." Weston, who hadn't taken a vacation in 3 years, pressed his palms flat on the table. "This doesn't make sense. Standard protocol is bonuses for exceeding targets. We didn't just exceed them, we transformed the entire division's approach." Ellis sighed as if explaining basic concepts to children. "Consider it a necessary adjustment for division harmony. Your performance has caused tensions with other teams." Tensions? Liv, our newest member, looked lost. "You're making others look bad," Ellis said bluntly. "Division harmony matters more than standout performance." The decision was final. I watched my people collapse in front of me. Knox, who'd worked straight through his father's funeral week, and Daphne, who'd delayed her surgery just to finish her project. All 12 faces carried the same crushing truth. Excellence was being punished. While they looked shattered, something hardened inside me, a strange, icy clarity I'd never felt before. "Everyone on my team," I said as I stood. "My office. Now." Ellis lifted an eyebrow. "We're not done here, Breyer. We absolutely are." I gathered my things without haste. "You've made your stance unmistakably clear, and now I need to speak with my team." They followed me like mourners in a procession, shoulders sagging, eyes down. Once all of them squeezed into my small office, I closed the blinds and locked the door. "Is this where you give us the perseverance pep talk?" Ash asked, voice empty. "Because I don't think I have anything left." "No," I said, leaning on my desk. "This is where I tell you something that doesn't go beyond this room." 12 exhausted pairs of eyes fixed on me. 3 months ago, when we first began dramatically outperforming targets, I got a private message from someone I'd never met. Tegan Frost, the semi-retired board chair. The room stirred. Tegan was practically mythic, the woman who built the company from scratch 3 decades ago. She'd noticed oddities in our division's metrics and wanted to understand why. We met for coffee, and she asked me something I couldn't answer. Why does every high-performing team eventually get dismantled or crippled in this company? Before I go on with the twist that followed, thank you for listening, and if you're enjoying this corporate revenge saga, hit the like button and subscribe for more stories like this. Your comments help me know what to create next. Now, back to what unfolded in my office that day. My name is Breyer Hawthorne, and until that moment, I had been the consummate company loyalist. For 8 years, I'd climbed from entry-level analyst to team lead through sheer determination and strategy. I never engaged in office politics. I just delivered results and built the most effective team our division had ever seen. "So we designed a test," I continued, watching their expressions change from despair to curiosity. "We were lab rats?" Remy, our operations expert, asked, sitting up straighter. "Strategic players," I corrected. Tegan believed that somewhere in middle management, innovation was being deliberately suffocated, excellence punished. But she needed proof. "So, our incredible quarter was an experiment?" Cora asked, her voice tight. "No, your brilliant work was real, But we documented leadership's reaction. Would they encourage excellence or crush it? Today, we got our answer. I unlocked my bottom drawer and pulled out a folder I'd received that morning. This isn't a pep talk, it's an exit strategy. You're quitting? Finn's voice shook. I'm evolving, I said. And I'm inviting all of you to evolve with me. The folder held not severance papers or transfers, but something far bolder. A fully funded spin-off venture backed by Tegan herself, offering roles for my entire team at 40% more than we earn now. She was creating a specialized subsidiary to build what this company keeps suffocating. She wanted proven innovators who thrive under stress. The mood shifted from defeat to cautious hope. What stops the same thing from happening there? Asked Sage, our risk assessor. Ownership structure. We'd each have equity, and the operating agreement includes explicit protections against punishing high performance. Vale, silent until now, looked doubtful. Why didn't she just fix things here? She's on the board. Corporate culture is harder to repair than people believe, I explained. The board sees quarterly numbers, not daily dysfunction. Tegan realized it would be faster to extract the talent and rebuild than to salvage what's broken. This is a lot, Liv said, massaging her temples. I know this isn't a choice to take lightly. Take the weekend, read the proposal, ask whatever questions you have, but whatever you choose, keep this confidential until we proceed. As they filed out, shocked but thoughtful, Weston lingered. You knew this was coming, he said quietly. That's why you've been so calm lately. I smiled. I had suspected, but I needed to see how far they would push, and if they had rewarded us instead, we would have stayed and built something extraordinary here. I shrugged. Ellis made the choice for us. The weekend blurred by in a storm of messages and private conversations, and by Monday morning, 9 of my 12 team members confirmed they were coming with me. The other 3 couldn't risk the shift. Family responsibilities, mortgages, health insurance concerns, so I respected their decisions and promised to help them transition to teams where they might face less hostility. Then I submitted 9 resignation letters at once. Ellis reacted immediately, calling an emergency meeting within the hour. Whatever they've offered, I'll match it, he said, his usually controlled expression flushed. Name your price. I studied him. It's not about the money. It's about recognizing excellence instead of punishing it. This is about the workload adjustment. That was just a motivational tactic, he insisted. Of course, bonuses would have come eventually. Eventually, I echoed. And that's the issue. When he learned where we were going, anger replaced desperation. A subsidiary? That's corporate sabotage. Actually, I replied calmly, it's the natural outcome of treating top performers like inconveniences instead of assets. He leaned in, voice dropping into a threat. The board will never approve this subsidiary. I'll make sure of it. That was when I smiled, an honest smile that made him lean back. They already have, unanimously. Watching a division boost performance by 300% only to be punished struck a nerve. His face drained. Yesterday's meeting was confidential. Not from board members, I said. Tegan attended virtually. She heard your entire punishment speech. Ellis gripped the table, knuckles white. You recorded that meeting? That's against policy. No recording. Tegan was already there, observing quietly like she has for months, watching how you handle top talent. The truth hit him. Every dismissive comment, every moment he stole credit, every instance of stifling innovation, witnessed by the company's founder. This is a misunderstanding, he stammered. I was applying strategies from the executive leadership program. Which program encourages punishing excellence? I asked sincerely. His eyes darted around, searching for allies and finding none. 2 weeks' notice is standard. I expect all of you to transition your projects properly. Remy cleared his throat. Our contracts only require 1 week for voluntary resignations. We'll be thorough, but we're not staying 2 weeks. Ellis stood abruptly. I'll be speaking with legal. Don't expect this transition to be smooth. After he stormed out, the 9 of us exchanged looks, the weight of what we'd done settling over us. There was no going back. What now? Daphne asked, her voice trembling. Now we brace for turbulence, I said. Ellis won't let this go. I wasn't wrong. The next 7 days were increasingly hostile. Access vanished. Files disappeared. Security escorted us to and from the restroom as though we might steal office supplies. On the final day, Ellis summoned me alone. You think you've won? He asked, leaning back. Tegan is 73 with health issues. When she steps away, who do you think the board will believe about her little experiment? I tilted my head. Is that a threat, Ellis? A reality check. You've always been too idealistic. That's why you'll never move past team leader. You don't understand the real game. I understand perfectly, I replied. I'm simply refusing to play a broken one. He smiled thinly. Good luck. The business world runs on relationships, not performance metrics. And I know every executive in this industry. His words settled heavily, not because I believed him, but because I recognized the danger. Ellis wouldn't stop at pushing us out. He would try to sabotage us. As I packed my office, Weston appeared in the doorway. Everything okay? You look pale. Ellis made it clear there will be consequences beyond today. Weston lowered his voice. He's been calling clients, suggesting we were pushed out for performance issues. My hand froze midair, heading to a framed photo. How do you know? Jasper in client relations had texted me. Ellis had him pull our entire client list that morning. This changed everything. We weren't just leaving with skills and experience. We needed those client relationships for the new venture to succeed. Team meeting at Parlor Cafe in 30 minutes. I decided everyone needed to hear this. The cafe across from our office became our first war room. 9 anxious faces crowded around. Tables hastily pushed together. We'd always known Ellis would retaliate. I started without preamble. Now we know how. He's poisoning the well with clients. Can he do that? Liv asked. Legally, it's risky, Knox replied. He'd worked in legal before joining our team. Subtle, he added. Raised eyebrows, pointed questions about why we all left abruptly. So, what do we do? Fee asked. We need those client relationships. I'd been asking myself the same since talking with Weston. Our original plan had been a clean break. Finish our notice professionally, spend 2 weeks setting up the new venture, then approach clients. Now, we had to accelerate everything. We adapt, I said. Finally. Ellis believes business runs on relationships, not performance. Let's prove him half right. What does that mean? Ash asked, puzzled. It means we call every client tonight, not to poach, which would breach contracts, but to say goodbye, thank them for the partnership, and wish them well. And when they ask why we're leaving, Cora pressed. We tell the truth, I said simply, not to hurt Ellis, but because it's the truth. We delivered record results and were told excellence isn't valued. We found a place where it is. That's risky, Sage said, ever cautious. Less risky than letting Ellis control the story, I countered. We know these clients. They value results. They've seen what we've delivered. Silence hung until Daphne squared her shoulders. I'm in. My clients trust me. They should hear this from me first. One by one, the others nodded. We divided the client list and scattered to make personal calls from coffee shops, park benches, and car seats across the city. I took the 3 largest accounts, including Meridia Systems. Their director, Adira, answered on the second ring. Briar, everything okay? You never call after hours. I inhaled deeply. I'm calling with personal news. Today was my last day at the company. Silence. What happened? You were just promoted last year. I stuck to facts without embellishment. When I finished, Adira was quiet so long I thought we'd lost the connection. That explains the odd call from Ellis this afternoon, she finally said. He mentioned team restructuring for optimal client service. I assumed someone was promoted. What else? That your team was being reassigned to better serve clients, that a new, more experienced team leader would take over. Adira paused. He strongly implied you couldn't handle high-value accounts. Despite expecting it, hearing it confirmed made my throat tighten. 8 years of exemplary service reduced to a lie. Where are you going next? She asked. I hesitated. I can't solicit business, but I can tell you I'm joining a new venture with most of my team. Interesting, she said. Very interesting. Ellis is coming by tomorrow to introduce my new team contact. Perhaps you and I should have breakfast before that meeting. By midnight, similar conversations had unfolded across the city. 7 clients requested meetings with us as friends before committing to new teams. It wasn't poaching if they sought us out. The next morning, heading to meet Adira, my phone rang from an unfamiliar number. Is this Briar Hawthorne? A crisp voice asked. Yes. Who's calling? Julian Mercer, Board of Directors. We need to meet immediately. My stomach dropped. May I ask what this is regarding? Ellis has filed a formal complaint accusing you and your team of client theft, corporate espionage, and violating non-compete agreements. These are serious allegations, Miss Hawthorne. They're also completely false, I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. That remains to be determined. The board is convening an emergency session at 11 a.m. Your presence is required. As I ended the call, a text from Tegan appeared. Don't panic. Remember the plan. But there was a problem. We didn't have a plan for this. The board meeting felt like walking into an ambush. 12 stern faces lined the massive table, Ellis seated at one end with a smug smirk. Julian Mercer, who had called me earlier, gestured to an empty chair at the opposite end. Miss Hawthorne, thank you for joining us on short notice. I nodded, keeping my expression neutral despite my racing heart. Of course. Scanning the room, I noticed Tegan was absent. My one ally, nowhere in sight. We've received disturbing allegations, Julian continued, sliding a folder across the table. Mr. Brooks claims you and your team have violated multiple clauses of your employment contracts. I opened the folder. Inside were printouts of call logs, meeting schedules, and client emails, all highlighted and annotated to cast the worst possible light. Ellis claims you orchestrated a mass client exodus. Julian explained that you used confidential information to solicit business for your new venture. I closed the folder carefully. That's categorically false. You deny contacting clients after hours yesterday? Ellis interjected. I don't deny calling clients to inform them of my departure. That's professional courtesy, not solicitation. And these breakfast meetings scheduled with 7 major clients? Ellis pushed a printed calendar across the table. Just coincidence? Those meetings were requested by the clients after learning of my departure. Ellis laughed. And you expect the board to believe they spontaneously requested these meetings without any prompting? Yes, I said simply. Because it's the truth. Julian cleared his throat. Regardless of who initiated these meetings, create the appearance of impropriety. With respect, I countered. Informing clients of a departure and accepting their invitations doesn't violate any contract terms. Our non-compete prevents us from actively soliciting business for 12 months. It doesn't prevent clients from seeking us out. Ellis's smile faltered slightly. She's twisting the language to justify theft of company resources. What resources have I stolen? I asked directly. Intellectual property, client relationships, team members? Ellis pressed. Client relationships don't belong to the company, I replied evenly. They're built on trust between people, and individuals aren't resources to be owned. A woman at the far end of the table, Nora, the finance director, leaned forward. Miss Hawthorne, while your point about relationship ownership has merit, the timing appears suspicious. 9 resignations submitted simultaneously, followed by immediate client outreach. I nodded, acknowledging her concern. I understand how it looks, but consider our perspective. After delivering unprecedented results, we were told our reward was punishment, doubled workloads with no compensation. When we resigned, Ellis began contacting clients, mischaracterizing our departures. We had no choice but to correct the record. So, you admit coordinating this response? Ellis pounced. I admit to leading my team through a difficult transition you made unnecessarily hostile. The boardroom door opened and Tegan Frost entered, leaning slightly on a cane. The energy shifted immediately. Sorry I'm late, she said, her voice stronger than her frail appearance suggested. Traffic was terrible. Julian stood. Miss Frost, we weren't expecting you. Evidently not, she replied dryly, taking a seat midway down the table. But when I heard about this emergency session regarding the team I've been personally monitoring, I thought my perspective might be relevant. Ellis's expression tightened. With all due respect, Tegan, you've been semi-retired for years. I've been semi-retired, not semi-conscious. I've been semi-retired, not semi-conscious, Tegan retorted, earning a few suppressed smiles from board members. And I've been watching this situation unfold for months. She turned to the board. What Ellis isn't telling you is that I personally recruited Breyer and her team for a special project after seeing how innovation was systematically suppressed in our core business. Ellis's face reddened. That's completely— Let me finish, Tegan cut him off sharply. The board approved the subsidiary 3 months ago. It's in the minutes you apparently didn't read before convening this inquisition. Several board members exchanged uneasy glances. The legal department cleared the transition plan, including the client communication protocol that Breyer followed precisely. I wasn't informed of any subsidiary, Ellis insisted. No, you weren't, Tegan agreed, because your management style was what we were testing. The room went silent as the implications sank in. Ellis had unknowingly been the subject of evaluation, not the evaluator. Julian shifted uncomfortably. This is unusual, Miss Frost. Innovation often is, she replied coolly. For a moment, I allowed myself to relax. Tegan had arrived like a deus ex machina to resolve the situation. But Ellis wasn't finished. He slid another document across the table. Even if the subsidiary was approved, these performance metrics tell the real story. Breyer's team has consistently misrepresented their achievements. The supposed 300% improvement was statistical manipulation. I felt my blood run cold. He was attacking our results, our legitimacy. That's absurd, I protested. Our numbers were independently verified. By whom? Ellis challenged. Your own team members, hardly independent. I opened my mouth to argue, but Julian raised his hand. Let's examine the evidence. If there were misrepresentations, that would change matters significantly. Ellis smugly pushed forward spreadsheets and charts I'd never seen before, showing our projects underperforming, timelines missed, budgets exceeded. None of it matched reality, but it looked convincing. These are fabricated, I said, disbelief lacing my voice. They're from our central database, Ellis countered, entered by your team leads. That's when it clicked. The missing access permissions during our final week, the mysterious IT maintenance that locked us out of performance dashboards. Ellis hadn't just been delaying our transition, he'd been rewriting history. Tegan studied the documents with narrowed eyes. These don't match the reports I've seen. With respect, Ella said smoothly, you've been seeing curated information. These are the raw numbers. The board members glanced uncertainly between us. I could feel the tide turning back in Ellis's favor. Without access to the originals, how could I prove these were falsified? Just as despair threatened to overwhelm me, my phone vibrated. A text from FA. Check your email now. I glanced at my screen to see dozens of messages, all with attachments. May I respond to these allegations with evidence? I asked Julian, who nodded. I took a deep breath. When our team noticed unusual system activity last week, we became concerned about data integrity, so each member independently archived all project documentation, client correspondence, and performance metrics, not company property, just records of our own work. Ellis's confidence wavered visibly. That's not possible. Actually, it's standard backup protocol, I said, opening my laptop. The company handbook encourages maintaining personal work records. I projected onto the boardroom screen a side-by-side comparison. Ellis's doctored reports versus our archived originals, complete with authentication timestamps and system logs. These records show the actual performance metrics, and, more importantly, exactly when and how the official records were altered last week. The room seemed to chill as board members leaned forward, realizing the manipulation they'd almost been drawn into. Julian turned to Ellis, voice dangerously quiet. You falsified company records to discredit a departing team. Ellis's composure cracked. They were leaving anyway, taking clients, destroying team cohesion because you punished them for excellence. Tegan interrupted. The very behavior we built this company to reward. It wasn't punishment, Ellis insisted desperately. It was strategic resource allocation, doubling workloads without compensation. Nora asked incredulously. Ellis scanned the table, finding no allies. You don't understand the pressures middle management faces, the conflicting demands, the impossible metrics. I think we understand perfectly now, Julian said coldly. This meeting is adjourned. Ellis, stay. Everyone else may leave. As I gathered my things, Tegan caught my eye and nodded slightly. Outside, my team waited anxiously. In the lobby, what happened? Knox asked immediately. I smiled, the tension of months finally releasing. Ellis just learned why you don't mess with data specialists. Did Faye's package help? Remy asked. Perfect timing, I confirmed. How did you know? Faye shrugged. Ellis was too smug yesterday. We figured he had something planned. Daphne checked her watch. I hate to break up this moment, but I have a client breakfast in 20 minutes. Technically not our clients anymore, Cora reminded me. Not yet, I agreed. But soon. Over the next 3 months, our new venture took shape in ways I could never have imagined. Freed from the constraints of Ellis's leadership, innovation thrived. Our first major project launched 6 weeks ahead of schedule. And those breakfast meetings, 7 became 12, then 20. Not because we poached clients, but because word spread about what we were building. 6 months later, I received an unexpected invitation to the annual Company Leadership Summit, not as a participant, but as a keynote speaker. The topic, Cultivating Excellence Without Fear. As I prepared my presentation, an email arrived from Julian Mercer. Thought you'd want to know, it began. After a comprehensive leadership review, several changes had been implemented. Ellis was no longer with the company. His position had been eliminated in the restructuring. Attached was the new organizational chart. The entire middle management layer had been reimagined. Teams were now structured around innovation hubs rather than hierarchical reporting lines. The email continued. The board has recognized the systematic issues you helped expose. We're implementing new incentive structures that reward exceeding targets rather than punishing standout performance. At our 1-year celebration, Tegan raised a glass to our team, now partners rather than subordinates. To recognizing the difference between being punished for excellence and being rewarded for it, Ash added. And to Breyer, who made one call that changed everything. I smiled, thinking of that first coffee with Tegan. Actually, she called me. I just answered. Sometimes that's all it takes, answering when opportunity calls, even if it means leaving behind everything you thought was secure, because excellence should never be punished. And sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying what's broken, but building something better. If you enjoyed this story of corporate revenge and justice, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of workplace triumph. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever been punished for excellence? How did you respond? Your experiences might inspire the next story I tell. Until next time, remember, your worth isn't determined by those who can't recognize it.